Well, well, well. Class of 2011, you made it. And for those I know not in this room, but for those who would question the value of cyber charter schooling, let them come here and see these assembled leaders. In considering what it was I might say today, I thought about a story I once heard about a famous school in England called the Liverpool Institute High School. It's most famous because of two of its graduates, two young men at the time named George Harrison and Paul McCartney. They became part of what I hope you know is one of the most famous bands in history, the Beatles. Every day going to school, they saw the same inscription in Latin over their door. And it read in English, "Not for yourself, but for the whole world were you born." That's a pretty big message to pass along to anybody, yet alone a young mind. You do not belong simply to yourself. You belong to the world. Pretty much stands to reason that the logical conclusion from that is that we all belong to one another. Unfortunately, all too often, people don't like to hear this message. We're in a time where people talk about their personal liberties. They talk a lot about themselves. They invoke their rights, the right to be rude, the right to be angry, the right to say something horrible, if even untrue. I think of a group in the center of our nation that passes itself off as a church. They're based in Topeka, Kansas, and they go out and they protest the funerals of soldiers who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. They say it's God's judgment, and they hold up signs saying, "Thank God for dead soldiers." Now, while it's true that they have a right to express themselves, and our Constitution bears this out, the First Amendment gives us a right to say pretty much anything we want. But if we are truly going to be worthy of those rights, then we must never forget about common decency. And common decency understands, and it's an important concept to understand, that with the right to speak comes the obligation to listen. With the right to protest comes the demand to be tolerant. I'm Irish by background. There you go. And among the stories that I most enjoy in my Irish heritage is this one about early Irish chiefs more than 1,000 years ago. A chief of one tribe would send a son or a daughter to the chief of a rival tribe. And the challenge was for that rival chief to raise that child as his own. And in turn, that chief would send one of his children. The concept was quite simple. It's hard to go to war with a neighbor who is raising your son or daughter. And it's hard to come back home as a young man or woman, having lived with another family, without that sense that you belong not just to yourself, but to one another. You end up discovering what is on that wall an ocean away, not for yourself, but for the whole world where you're born. So now, you're graduates. Where will you go when you get out there in that big world, the world for which you were born? How will you fit in? How will you share this message that we belong to one another? Now let me make clear, you can't simply mouth the words. There's too much idle talk floating around these days already. Trust me, I'm from Harrisburg, I know. You have to live it. You have to act as if you have a voice in your head telling you over and over and over again, you're not here for yourself. You're here for the world. You see, it's not enough to mind your own business, not when we belong to one another. And it's not enough just to have something to say. You need something to do, a purpose. And when we act well, when we do our best, when we set out with a goal that will make things better, we will touch people we never knew. We will make a difference, large or small, in lives and in the world. Look at this school. Look at what you are all a part of. It's a relatively new idea. It took some persuasion and work and plain old faith to get it up and running. You are all part of the foundation of this school. And when you leave here, you need to honor the work that you've put in already by succeeding. You need to be leaders. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out and run for office. There are many ways you can do it. You can do it quite simply by acting appropriately. And so, as Lieutenant Governor, which means that I don't get to issue near as many executive orders as the governor does, I'm going to give you a summer assignment, your last one from PALCS, and it is simply this: smile, be polite, hold a door for someone. The next time somebody mentions someone that you don't like, don't say anything. There's far too much toxic talk in the air as well. I remind you, I'm from Harrisburg. Some night, before anyone can think to ask you, set the table and escort the lady of the house to a chair. Remember an older person somewhere, someone with no children, or someone perhaps whose children has moved away, and make a cake or bake some cookies or just go and visit. You see, they weren't born for themselves either. They were born to the world, and we need to share them as well. As a citizen of this country and of the world, you owe others your leadership. Doesn't have to be with a flourish. It can be done very quietly, but it needs to be done. The world cries out for leaders, and you are here today to go forth into that world to provide that leadership. I end by wishing all of you good luck, God's blessing. Do great things. Have courage. The only thing that limits you, and take it from a kid from Levittown whose father was a mailman and whose mother was a secretary, the only thing that limits you is your willingness to work hard for what it is that you want. Good luck to all of you, and God bless you.